We have the world's most rock-solid case for the foundation of our movement. And yet, look at the reality of the movement we've managed to build on top of it. We've had 10 years of laughable failure. Louis Foglia on the keyboard. Quote, "It's getting harder for me to roll my eyes at vegans. According to the United Nations, animal agriculture is responsible for 14.5% of greenhouse gas emissions. The majority of that comes from beef and dairy. If we don't reduce emissions, the IRCC reports that climate change outcomes we once thought were far away are now expected by 2040. Things like worsening droughts, wildfires, and food shortages. Meanwhile, the production of 1 kilogram of beef, 2.2 pounds, requires over 15,000 liters of water. Overall, a normal diet that includes dairy, eggs, meat, and fish is almost twice as water intensive as a vegan diet. Eating meat is also bad for your health. Researchers recently found that the risk of death from cardiovascular disease is reduced by 40% when individuals adopt a plant-based diet. The risk of coronary heart disease also drops by 40%. Then there's the animal cruelty argument. The conditions on large-scale industrial farms are not good, to say the least." Just pause for 1 sec. Is it in fact the case, Louis, that you have any familiarity with what conditions are like on small-scale non-industrial farms? Are you actually comparing something known to something else you know, or are you comparing something known to something unknown? Big business in agriculture really is more efficient, especially if you care about ecology. The tragic but true news is that industrial agriculture is more ethical than small-scale, basically third world conditions of meat production, because the whole impact on the environment, water, the amount of food consumed by the animals, and the amount of suffering the animals go through, it's worse. There's this old phrase, small is beautiful. A lot of people just assume like a big grocery store is evil and a small locally owned grocery store is somehow virtuous and morally pure. Well, let me tell you something. A small slaughterhouse is not virtuous and morally pure. You can spend time on a small, poverty-stricken, family-run poultry farm in Cambodia. I've done this. I used to live in Cambodia. You can be on a small, family-run goat farm, even a farm producing goat milk rather than goat meat. It's horrifying. At every stage, it's horrifying. For the animals, their slaughter, and even the questions of hygiene and the ecology and the impacts. It's very easy. I don't know why. People find it easy to vilify large-scale industrial agriculture. But it's on that large scale and those industrialized methods that are actually more efficient. And less efficient doesn't mean more morally virtuous. Anyway, how do you think this is going to end? He's just said there are all these empirically verifiable, obvious reasons to support veganism. He's saying it's harder to roll his eyes at vegans. But what does that really mean? Here's the conclusion, guys. Excuse me if this sounds preachy. Oh, well, you're excused anytime, Louis. I'm just grappling with all this myself as a big eater who consumes more than his fair share of burgers, wings, and breakfast bacon. Yeah, big eater. There's a euphemism. I wonder what it says on Urban Dictionary about that. I'm a big eater. It's just reached the point where the empirical evidence is overwhelming my knee-jerk resistance to being nannied. Nannied? If you drink too much alcohol, who's going to nanny you? In this life, nobody. Nobody cares. You can drink yourself to death. Yeah, and it's cheap and it's affordable. You can become a wino. You can become an alcoholic. If you want sobriety, it's on you. If you want to live a life with some sense of self-discipline and moral purpose, it's on you. If you're going to eat breakfast bacon, burgers and wings, if you're going to be a big eater, live a life of, reckless, environmentally destructive, immoral self-indulgence, nope, nobody's going to nanny you, man. All these corporations are going to make money off of you. McDonald's is going to put up posters appealing to that side of your character, and they're all going to take your money. They're all going to sit you down and feed you this stuff and make you feel welcome. All these restaurants, not just the cheap restaurants, high-end restaurants, 5-star restaurants, whatever, luxury restaurants, they all want your money, bro. Same way the bars want your money for alcohol, same way the crack dealer wants to sell you cocaine. It's on you. We're grown-ups, man. There are no nannies, okay? Either you have some sense of moral purpose and self-discipline yourself, or you don't. I haven't eaten my last steak, but I'm definitely done ribbing vegans and vegetarians about their aversion. Aversion, interesting choice of word, after you've just done all this research on the subject, Louis. Vegans and vegetarians shouldn't have to defend their diets. The rest of us should. So let's go back briefly to the opening statement. Quote, it's getting harder for me to roll my eyes at vegans. Is it? I've had a bunch of videos lately drawing attention to the real insanity of the people who are in leadership positions within veganism. Now, some of those people came into positions of prominence and leadership accidentally, not by any planning or vision on their own part. Some of them came into those positions kind of organically, using the word organic in the 21st century internet sense, where just, people liked their YouTube videos. They got popular. Who knows why? People shared the link, people got interested, and, they ended up in a leadership position. But to a very large extent, you have large, powerful, well-organized, well-funded organizations making executive decisions about who is going to speak at LA Veg Fest and who is not. PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, if you look at their annual budget, you will break down weeping. It's unbelievable how many millions of dollars per year they have to waste, and they do waste it. And they looked at that budget, and they looked at YouTube social influencer Stella Ray, who is not vegan, and they decided to promote her on PETA, and they decided to promote PETA through her. People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. It's one absurdity after another. The annual Sexiest Vegan competition. I've talked about this before. It's one of the least popular videos on my channel. People for whatever reason, were shocked and offended. I was pointing this out. Look, guys, PETA's Sexiest Vegan competition, it's not even sexy. And it doesn't promote veganism. What it promotes is precisely this kind of contempt from people like Louis. It makes us contemptible. It makes people roll their eyes. It makes us seem ridiculous. It's not putting forward a sober, empirically valid, ecological, and ethical case for veganism. It's making veganism look like something that has to be promoted through lies, through the ridiculous, glitzy marketing. And again, it doesn't make sense on so many levels. And sorry, I know this is one example. I can't go on and on forever. But vegans for the past 10 years have been in a situation where they have to despise their own leadership. And we have to question who elected these people, who put them in positions of power. Vegans have to despise PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Vegans have to despise the Humane Society of the United States of America, Humane Society of Australia, so on and so forth. Vegans are in a position that's roughly parallel to ecology as a movement of the whole, because ecology has not been able to respect or revere the leadership of the Green Party. Not in any country I'm familiar with. I don't know. If some of you are living in Germany, you might disagree. I know Germany's had a relatively successful Green Party, but in the English-speaking world, this is not a simple case where you can say there's a green movement led by a Green Party. There isn't a vegan movement led by a vegan party, nor anything else like that. And the fact that these people who were given platforms, given promotion by well-funded, moneyed organizations, Tim Schiff. Tim Schiff was invited to speak at LA Veg Fest. He was formally promoted this way, and obviously not only at LA Veg Fest. I think probably at vegan events in London, England, across Europe, so on and so forth. These were the people literally put on stage, put behind a microphone, put at a podium to speak on these issues. And guys, nobody knows better than I do how tightly controlled those events are. Those organizations would never let someone like me speak. The organizations that exist in veganism, even the ones that try to have a punk rock attitude, act like it's fun and rebellious and open, they won't even let me attend their street protests. I'm considered so controversial. The intellectual content of this channel is so shocking that, I can't attend a silent vigil in Vancouver. Think about that. Think about the level of misdirected self-censorship, self-hatred, and internecine conflict that exists within veganism, where if I want to do something positive, I either have to do it alone, or I basically have to provide 100% of the leadership, organization, and funding. Even when I could do that, by the way, when I had a very modest inheritance from my father, and I offered to completely pay for an event in Vancouver, and I couldn't even get one other person to cooperate, not even one. And there was a little bit of an intellectual bar to entry there. I wasn't inviting complete idiots, but I said, hey guys, let's have a conference. Let's present papers on this topic. Let's gather the papers together, publish them as a book. Let's do something that's really trying to put the future of the vegan movement on a better footing. I didn't have one person willing to participate. And that's when I was not just providing leadership and booking the room, but I said, okay, at this moment, I have some money in the bank and I can pay for it. That's not my situation now. Look, many people find it controversial or shocking to question the competence, the intelligence, and the sanity of the people who happen to have been in leadership positions in veganism. And they question it because on some level they think it would be morally virtuous to just support somebody, just promote somebody, even if they're a nutcase. So they say, well, this guy's a bit eccentric, he's a bit cracked, he's a bit crazy, but so what? He's one of us, he's vegan, so let's just promote him and push him forward as a leader in the vegan movement. And then you see, normally within 2 or 3 years, you see what the consequences of that are. One would-be leader is pushed to the front again and again and becomes the person who's in the newspaper articles and on TV and at the podium, even at our own events, right? And then one by one, they fall from grace. And in the background, what you don't see are like 4 billion people like Louis Foglia who just keep rolling their eyes. Again, this is the world's easiest argument to make. I mean, veganism is real simple. It's real straightforward, okay? If you want to make an argument for solar power, it's not easy. If you want to make an argument for phasing out and replacing automobiles that are powered by fossil fuels, by gasoline, it's not easy. When you look into the details, I don't think within my lifetime we're going to see cars running on fossil fuels removed from the roads. I think that's going to continue long after I'm dead. We really don't have a technology that's superior in a simple sense to eclipse cars and trucks that we have on the roads now. We don't. Battery-based electric cars are deeply, deeply flawed. There are a lot of problems with them on a small scale and a large scale. We're not going to see the golf cart replace the long-haul truck. We're not. Not in my lifetime. Okay? But the technology of the veggie burger, the technology of the bean, the technology of baked beans makes beef completely obsolete. It has a 100% positive impact ethically, ecologically, for your health, etc., etc. We have the world's most rock-solid case for the foundation of our movement. And yet, look at the reality of the movement we've managed to build on top of it. We've had 10 years of laughable failure. And even after seeing all the facts, making a YouTube video about it, someone like Louis Foglia, he's still rolling his eyes at you.